Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Freshman 15 podcast. After a short hiatus, a short break, we are back talking about the college football landscape in about 15 minutes. Back with Tyler Moore doing it once again, and back with you guys here on the channel. So before we hop right into it, as we always do, hit that like button, hit that sub button, and share it out there with the college gamut, if you will. So we're back once again. Tyler, what's up, man?
Not too much, man. Sorry that hiatus is my fault. I was on a work trip and I was like 3 time zones away, and I was all combobulated. I didn't have a schedule, so here we are talking college football. A lot has changed since week 1. So
yes, it has.
Let's do this, bad boy.
It's all good, man. I took the week off. We had stuff going on, so it makes perfect sense. And it's funny, right? Because I think you and I talked about this before, and we talk all the time off air.
Yeah.
A lot of life changes, like real things happen, and I always think that with things that progress and things change, we kind of focus on where we started, how we got from that spot to where we are now, and then kind of looking ahead. So what I wanted to do this week on the Freshman 15 was kind of just look back at the pilot episode, our topics back then, kind of bring them current to right now, and just let's play this thing out bit for bit. It's like how you have a TV show, they have a clip show in the middle of the season. This is our not so subtle clip show. So we're gonna kind of rehash and regroup, if you will. So the first topic we had on the first episode was the Heisman Hopefuls, right? So we had the Heisman Hopefuls as per like the odds makers in Vegas. These are sports books. Shout out to Peyton and JV Smooth. But we had our Heisman Hopefuls. And so on that list that we had in episode 1 was, and I'll read them off, was CJ Stroud, your guy, Bryce Young, Caleb Williams out of USC, so y'all can fight on, Bijan Robinson, and Quinn Ewers. So a lot has changed since that time frame. So for you, in these 5 guys, has anyone cemented themselves as the Heisman frontrunner for the award?
It's CJ Stroud. They did a tough first game against Notre Dame. I think just getting almost like sea legs, and then since then they've just taken off. They've beaten teams they've covered the spread basically. He's doing what he needs to do, and I would say Caleb Williams is probably second in that list now. Bryce Young drop a level because he's struggled a couple games. I think maybe Quinn's probably off right now due to his injury, but other than that, it's pretty much the same.
Yeah, and it pains me to say it, but your guy Stroud, he's taking the award, and it's because he had a kind of a rough showing, I think, maybe a little bit, but he got right through it, man. I think they ran through the Big Ten so far. Rutgers got taken down. Wisconsin got taken down. He's been effective and flawless. No lull, no kind of like hitch in his game, unlike Caleb Williams versus Oregon State. He's been consistent all the way through the entire process. Plus, you have, I think, guys missing out of the lineup. I think and Jimbo Smith missed some time or missed a game, I think.
Yep.
So they've not missed a beat with him. He's been on fire. So unlike Caleb Williams, who had problems against lower competition or within his own conference, you have Stroud absolutely kicking ass out there, whipping everybody's ass on the numbers. So he's my number 1 for sure, CJ Stroud. So shout out to you, man. And then, on the first episode, we had our dark horses, right?
Yep.
We talked about who can kind of jump in the conversation, maybe take the crown at the last minute. I know I had Jordan Addison, you had Jackson and Jimbo Smith. Clearly, those guys are not going to take the award. So to kind of reassess where we're at right now, for you, and I guess I'll go first, actually. For me, I think the new guy in that mix is Hendon Hooker from Tennessee. And I'll say right now, looking at the numbers, 8 TDs, no picks, 2 wins against ranked opponents. He beat Pitt, I believe, on the road. So Pittsburgh on the road. Took down, I believe, Kentucky as well. And then if you look at what's going on ahead of him, right there in front of him, he can lock himself into that conversation as a Heisman dark horse by playing top tier competition. That would be Alabama, Kentucky, Georgia. So I think, I like him a lot. RG3 likes him a lot. Shout out to you, RG3. So Hendon Hooker's my guy for the dark horse is still the Heisman, but how about you?
Yeah, so originally, you said I had Jackson Smith and Jingba. I think my big one was Leary. He's kind of fallen out of there, and I did have Sam Hartman at the beginning of the year, but he was out because of that heart condition. But now I actually think it's Jalen Daniels from Kansas. So he's getting his votes, and now they got a big game against TCU this week over another ranked opponent. And then the way it
Mm-hmm.
sets up is, he's playing, they're in their Big 12 slate. So now in that Big 12 slate, the knock on Big 12 is, hey, they don't really play defense. So if he balls out, there's a couple ranked opponents, and there's Oklahoma State. There's going to be Oklahoma. I think they played Oklahoma, but they have those games. Baylor's coming up. Plays well. I mean, he can insert himself into that top 3.
Yeah. I saw him too. I was thinking about like maybe him, but I know the numbers aren't great, but the wins are.
Yes.
So the wins are, and you look, but it's all about winning, right? And like the big moments.
And it's considering like Kansas is a basketball school too. Where did this guy come from? Like, I never heard of him before. So it's like, where did this guy come from? And that's, I guess that would truly what makes him like a dark horse.
I hear that, man. I was also thinking about our guy is Aiden Martinez at K-State. So it's a lot of guys in that mixture. But if he can kind of take that quality win, put himself on the map, it does a lot for him getting that consideration. So I'm with that, man. And to get us back on track and back on this episode trajectory like we always do, the Saturday Spotlight, man. A lot of big ones too. We missed it last week, but we're back here again for the Saturday Spotlight. So again, in the theme of putting things in the rear view and looking forward, looking to the weekend, in our Saturday Spotlight, what game are you looking at the hardest?
Okay, so I didn't want to do the Big 12 one, since I figured maybe you were gonna take that one, but I did Utah UCLA because I want to. Oh, okay. I guess
go ahead,
there we
take
go.
it.
I want to see how the Pac-12 starts to sort itself out here, because they're beating each other up. Washington just lost. We thought Washington was gonna be a top front runner, but Washington lost. USC struggled against Oregon State. Is Utah as good as they're gonna be? They had the early loss. And is UCLA? Are they? They just beat Washington last week. So it? How's that Pac-12 going to shake out? And who's going to be the one that's going to go up against USC?
And that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. It's almost like a collision course to USC, no matter how you look at that whole conference. And you talked about it too, that big loss they had, Washington losing to UCLA last Friday night. So that kind of, it threw a monkey wrench in everything. I was expecting to see them kind of hit their stride, Washington, but not anymore. So clearly, I think the way I look at it as well is, and you talked about it, that's my same Saturday Spotlight, UCLA. I mean, because no one's been really talking about them until they beat Washington last week.
Right.
So they put themselves on the map. And then I'm thinking about them with their offense. They can score. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, they're scoring points. Then you have, I still think Utah is actually really good on offense, but they got kind of caught off guard. They got kind of snuck punch versus the Gators in week 1. And, wink, wink, the upset special. But I think even with them, they have Cam Rising playing pretty well. You still have Tavion Thomas. I mean, look, I can smell that. I smell gunpowder. So that game's going to be a shootout this Saturday. I'm calling that one. That's the Saturday Spotlight. So I'm with you 100%. Utah, UCLA, I got you. Now we have the upset special.
I'll let you go first. I don't want to steal your thunder. I'll let you go first this one.
Okay. We're thinking the same thing. I know we are. But so here's what I got. I just built him up as a dark horse, but I actually have LSU against Tennessee. You thinking the same thing?
Nope, I'm not.
Okay, cool. So I'm in the clear. But you know what the funny thing is? LSU, after they lost that game, they've been trying to get the stink out of their clothes from that game with the Florida State since week 1. Yeah. And they've been present. The defense has been present. Maybe the offense hasn't gotten there yet, but the defense has been present. They've won their last 4. They look motivated. They look stronger. And I think people have been asking about, where's that Keyshawn Boot? Where's he been at? You're going to find him this Saturday, I think. I think he breaks out in a big way. And them having to go Hendon Hooker, and again, an ex-Hokie doing big things somewhere else. But I mean, having to go down to Death Valley in that spot is hard to play in. It's a big time game, a big time environment, and you want to see whether or not they're up for the challenge. I talked about Hooker in his competition for the Heisman, but this is a big one too. So going to win at Death Valley is going to be critical, and I think ultimately, they don't get it. And I think the Tigers take down the Volunteers in Baton Rouge. So give me the upset special right here. Let me get the Tigers over the Volunteers.
My upset special is Washington State over USC.
Stop it.
Now I ain't playing. Listen, hear me out. Okay, so USC, they're throwing up about 42 points a game. Their
Mm-hmm.
defense is only allowing about 20 points a game. That's
Yeah.
19, but let's
Yeah.
say 20. Washington State is averaging their first in Pac-12 with over 300 yards, close to 300 yards passing a game, and USC is only allowing about 200 yards passing a game. So it's a clash here, and we've seen at times, we've seen it last week, Oregon State was able to move the ball, and they kept it a close game against USC until like end of the third, fourth quarter. So now, if Washington, that's why I'm saying Washington State, they keep it close, they beat USC. That's my Saturday upset.
Wow. I mean, look, so we're talking about this, right? And I think, and it's funny, like before I kind of thought about like who would be like my dark horse contender. I wanted to mention, not dark horse, but the Heisman favorite. I wanted to mention Caleb Williams, and I was just like, maybe, cause there's a lot going on with the program too. Cause we talk about USC almost carrying, and we make a lot of jokes at the expense of the Pac-12.
Right. Yeah.
But it felt like USC is carrying almost the mantle of the conference in their hands. Like they're gonna go out with a bang, holding like the conference in their hands and how they measure up. To lose this game, will be a major backseat, but also not only them losing the game is a window opening up for a team like, let's say, Oregon to kind of slide back into the conversation. Yeah. So all of a sudden, if this does play out, which I still think you're crazy for saying this, but if it plays out, now we can talk about maybe Washington getting back in the mix, maybe talking about UCLA being more of a threat for the Pac-12 championship. I think it opens things wide open how we look at the narratives of this college football season on the West Coast, which I think it's scoffed at by a lot of people, and I can kind of see why. But if you open that door, and let's just say they walk right through it by them losing, we'll see, man. If Washington State walks through that door and they knock out USC, oh my gosh, man, oh my gosh.
Hey, I'm just saying a lot, and it's since we're going back to week one, our episode 1, it's like a lot has changed since week 1. Like we saw Oregon get drubbed, absolutely drugged by Georgia, but then we just watched Georgia struggle against, they didn't put up a lot of points fast against Kent State, and then they almost lost to Mizzou. So it's like, what's going on there? Alabama's not as strong as they once were because they struggled against Texas, who just lost to Texas Tech. I'm not going to go through the whole like transitive properties, like, hey, my team is better than your team because I'm not going to do that crap. But a lot has changed. Like if you look at the AP polls, cool, Ohio State's three, but they're actually the best team in the country right now. Ohio State's the best team in the country. Like if you threw out Ohio State last week against Georgia last week, they would have destroyed Georgia.
You would have caught them.
Yeah,
you would have caught them slipping.
Absolutely. And I like Ohio State right now is playing. They're playing A1 ball. So and they're coming in their tough schedule. I mean, Michigan State's nothing there. I mean, they're terrible this year, but you got Penn State, Michigan coming up. So I mean, that's what you're gonna get ready for. Maryland's playing pretty decent. So I mean, we'll see. But to also go off that, week 1, Scott Frost got fired a couple weeks ago. And the reports came out, man. He was late for practice every day. He was no-showing college recruits visits.
Wow.
And it's just like, and then they had the assistant coaches going to the AD, be like, hey, man, we need help because coach isn't helping us. So it's a lot more than just wins, losses with him. There was a bunch of stuff going on. Scott.
But the thing about that story, you were in on it early, though. Like, you smelled the rat in the room early, like really early. You were like the early adapter of what was going on. And the way that played out sequentially, and that's the thing about these guys and these, for me at least, right, these things with like the alma maters and letting guys back in their building, it's never how you wanted to be, man. And the girl from across the room is probably not as cute when you see her up close. And that whole thing got burned to the ground based on just him and just like giving him the keys too quickly. Not too quickly, because I think he had maybe one season over at UCF, and it's just like, damn. So a lot of what goes on is also about getting it right and doing it the right way. And we're starting to see that too. And speaking of a guy like that, look at A&M with Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the guy turned tail, rolled out of Florida State, and they recovered just now, but he's killing A&M. And it's funny because if he was on his game, and it's weird too, because if he was on his game and more like locked in, you might have been able to pull Alabama this week. Sans Bryce Young. You might have been able to do it. And it's funny, but I mean, I would have given them maybe that shine or that benefit of the doubt a couple weeks ago. Now, that's dead in the water. So, and that's just them by losing to Appalachian State. But they could have had this game served up to them right there. We talk about the narratives of week 1 to where we are now.
Yeah.
A&M could have had this game in their pocket. They just kind of played their cards right. But you see where we're at now.
Yeah. Now they're sitting at 3-2, not ranked, and
Meanwhile, Oregon getting blasted week 1 is in the conversation and could be even better if things turn out differently with USC. Yeah. Man, it is so good to be back, man.
It's what I'm saying. Like, Kansas, they're sitting out there. I think they're ranked 19 now. They have Oklahoma State coming up. They're ranked number 7, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I think they got Oklahoma coming up, and they have Old Baylor. And I mean, that serves up nicely for my Heisman dark horse. So see what he does here.
We'll see what happens, man. But hey, remember, we still have a leaderboard for those upset picks, man. I'm still leading the chase.
I'll take this big one though.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
We'll find out, man. We'll find out, man. But final thoughts on the show tonight?
Oh man, Ohio State over Sparty by 21. I should have said more. I should say like 29. Ryan Day just gonna shove it down the throat.
So. Chest wide out like that, man. But hey, guys, man, once again, great to be back with Tyler here on the Freshman 15 podcast. For him, I'm LP Cruz. Thanks for watching. Hit that sub button, hit that like button, and as always, peace.